It feels a bit surreal that it's already time to discuss the best games of the year. It doesn't feel like very long ago that I was doing this for 2023. I've had a super busy year, but I realised when preparing for this video that apparently it didn't stop me at all from playing a ton of incredible games. I keep saying each year gets better every time I make these videos, but honestly 2024 was such a fantastic year for new releases, especially in the indie game space, that I had to limit the number of games in this list, even more than I usually do to make sure that I only talk about my absolute favourites. Just like previous years, this video will be focused on my favourite games I played this year, including older releases, but it will be focused primarily on games that released in 2024. The games are also in no particular order, with the exception of the final 5, which all must have released this year. It's become a tradition at this point to start these end of the year videos with Kirby, but there was no Kirby game released this year, so I'm settling for the next closest thing. Yellow Taxi goes Vroom. Okay, that was a joke, but you do actually get to wear different hats. Yellow Taxi Goes Vroom is chaotic and over the top in every way imaginable, but it delivers such a polished and unique way of moving around these handcrafted areas that it's hard not to recommend for fans of 3D platformers. Pepper Grinder is another fast-paced platformer, but in 2D this time, that takes the idea of digging through terrain like in Rayman Legends or the Ori games, and makes an entire game out of it. The controls are really fluid, level design is superb, and I had such a great time getting all of the achievements and trying to speedrun some of these very well designed levels. Highly recommend if you enjoy smooth-moving 2D platformers. Creatures of Ava has a much more relaxed vibe than the games I've just discussed. It's a lovely open-world exploration game that tasks you with collecting things, taking pictures, and rescuing endangered magical creatures. What more could you ask for? I think Zelda Echoes of Wisdom took us all by surprise when it was announced this year. It felt like Nintendo had lost interest in creating a new 2D Zelda, but they not only revived the franchise in 2D, they managed to deliver something truly innovative. Zelda gets her time in the spotlight and has all these creative ideas that you can use to your advantage to tackle puzzles in any way you want to. It feels like the ideas of modern 3D Zelda but in 2D, and that is wonderful. Steamworld Heist 2 had me hooked for a good while with its polished strategic turn-based gameplay. It strikes a perfect balance between skill expression and logical thinking, and improves upon the previous game in pretty much every way. If you enjoy games like Worms, or even things like XCOM or Fire Emblem, I think you have a great time with this one. No Rest for the Wicked had me obsessed when it first released into early access. It felt like it was made for me, a new top-down Souls-like with its own creative ideas and a beautiful art style from the developers of the Ori games. I played through the available content but had to stop myself from getting burned out, as I can't wait to come back to this when it releases into 1.0. I can't believe it's taken me this long to play A Little to the Left. It's such a gorgeous puzzle game that manages to be both relaxing and also really quite challenging at certain points. You basically need to work out where things need to be placed based on subtle visual cues, with a wonderful hand-drawn presentation. Like a lot of people this year, Balatro had a grip on me for weeks when it released back in February. The simple rules of poker combined with building and modifying an increasingly crazy deck of cards and jokers is incredibly addictive, and I don't think I've spoken to anyone about this game that didn't actually enjoy it. The appeal this game had on so many different kinds of players is unmatched. I played Dungeon Drafters pretty much directly after Balatro, and I didn't get quite as addicted, but I did have a really fun time with it. The pixel art is the standout for me personally. Look at how pretty the sprite work and colour palette is here. It also happens to be a really nice turn-based strategy roguelike. I'm honestly really surprised Animal Well didn't make it to the top 5, and in many other years it would have been absolutely deserving, but there were so many amazing games this year. Regardless, Animal Well is an outstanding Metroidvania with a very unique premise and striking art style. If you like Metroidvanias and haven't played this already, definitely make it a priority. Hollowbody managed to draw me in with that classic PS2 era survival horror aesthetic and kept me engaged throughout its 5-hour runtime. It doesn't do anything super innovative, but it captures the survival horror atmosphere and oppressive sense of dread very, very well. If you enjoy old survival horror games like Silent Hill, Hollowbody comes with a good recommendation from me. I'm not usually into RTS games, but Unicorn Overlord's blend of character-based leveling akin to Fire Emblem, with unit formation and tactics had me thoroughly hooked. This is a super long game though, and I've still yet to reach the end, but I've enjoyed my time with it immensely and recommend it to anyone that likes strategic battling. I played Dragon Quest Builders briefly many years ago, but I dived back into it with the Steam release this year and had a really good time. It's basically third-person Minecraft but with RPG elements and more structured guidance, and the music is really lovely too. Mario and Luigi Brothership released at just the right moment. Somehow, by complete coincidence, I seem to pick up Mario RPGs when I'm stressed out or having a hard time, and they never fail to make me smile. This new Mario and Luigi game was quite divisive, but I adored it so much. Yes, it can be quite slow and it's not very challenging, but the charm and playfulness is so lovely. Each time I jump back into this world, it feels like a warm and comforting escape. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door also released earlier in the year, and I had a fantastic time with that one too. For some reason it didn't quite grip me as much as the other Mario RPGs I've played in the past year or so, and didn't feel quite as silly and self-aware, but the combat system is really fun and I did have a lot of fun with this game. I decided to finally play Alan Wake 1 after hearing all of the good things about the sequel, so I was ready to jump into the new one, and I really didn't expect to love the original game as much as I did. You can tell it's a little bit dated, but the cinematic camera angles and cutscenes and the general vibe of the whole game is so good. I also played American Nightmare and Control, and enjoyed those too, and I'm looking forward to playing Alan Wake 2 soon. Okay, we're roughly halfway through the list now, so if you want to pause and get a nice warm drink or a snack, now would be a good time, and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Or if you just want to continue listening to me ramble about some cool games that I played this year right now, that's also fine. Peglin is an interesting mashup of Peggle and kind of a roguelike deck builder. You get new balls as you progress, and you can also upgrade them to create synergies and try to make it to the end of the run. It's super fun, and whilst it is quite luck based more than actual skill, it's still a joy to play. I only got round to playing TOEM this year, and it's such a cozy chilled out time. I played it on my Steam Deck in bed, and just taking photos and doing silly little tasks for the people living in these fun little towns is such a treat. I was so excited by the incredibly cute animals and creatures in the first trailer for Infinity Nikki, but I then found out it was a free-to-play gacha game. I'm not usually one for gacha games at all, so I was very hesitant about this one, but I had to try it out based on the cuteness factor alone. It's been really enjoyable though, and whilst it's nothing revolutionary, it's so undeniably cute in everything it does. I'm more here for the adorable animals and environments than the fashion aspect, but yeah, if you love cute things like me, this game will absorb you. Paquerette Down the Bunburrows is a really simple puzzle game where you need to catch bunnies in little maze-like levels. It sounds super simple, but the game pushes this simple mechanic as far as it will possibly go, with some incredibly difficult puzzles presented as you progress. Super Mario Party Jamboree is a massive Mario Party game that has so many things to do, along with the core Mario Party experience being some of the best we've had in many years. If you love Mario Party, you probably already know about this, but if you're looking for one to get on Switch and don't already have any of them, this is certainly my favourite. Mario vs Donkey Kong was a remake of the classic GBA game with a couple of extra worlds, and it wasn't anything crazy, but the presentation, as usual with most Nintendo games, is super charming. It made me smile hundreds of times throughout its duration, and I'd recommend it if you're looking for something simple, engaging, and joyful to lift your spirits. I was immediately intrigued by the concept of UFO 50 back when it was announced, and it's so obvious from playing it that the developers poured so much love and care into this. It's a collection of 50 brand new games that have been created for a fictitious retro console, and it really is huge. The quality of games is fantastic, and the value for money is unbelievable, by far the best value game on this list in terms of length and quality. If you enjoy classic NES games, please pick this up. Ghost Trick is so unique, I've never really played anything quite like it. The gameplay involves possessing objects to interact with the environment and alter the fate of people around you. It's super fun, and the soundtrack is such a bop. Okay, we're on to the final 5. These all released in 2024 and are in order from 5th to 1st, with my favourite game of the year at the end. Dungeons of Hinterberg was barely on my radar until it came out, and I heard some great things about it from people that I trust with their opinions about games. I'm so glad I gave it a shot. It's everything that makes old school 3D Zelda games great, but mixed in with some Persona style life sim elements. I fell in love with the fantastic dungeon design and gameplay loop, with super satisfying puzzles that are just challenging enough without being at all frustrating. If you like Zelda games or exploring beautiful environments and solving puzzles, you need to give this game a go. I can't believe that Silent Hill 2 Remake is only number 4. It pains me that it's not even in the top 3, but I played some truly special games this year. This remake is without a doubt the best survival horror game I've played in many years, perhaps ever. I don't think anyone was expecting this game to be as good as it is before it came out, but it absolutely blew me away. The oppressive atmosphere, unrelenting sense of dread and isolation, and constant tension is masterfully done. The sound design is extremely impressive and complements the morph from a nightmare into a literal hellscape. Every time I thought it couldn't get any scarier from that point forward, it did. Every single time. It may be a struggle to even progress once you reach the halfway point, and not because it's too difficult, but because literally moving through these environments can induce so much fear of the unknown that it becomes increasingly difficult to push yourself forward. One of the scariest, most unsettling games I've ever had the joy of experiencing. If you like horror, you must play the Silent Hill 2 remake. A totally different energy than the previous game, Astro Bot was magical. Perhaps more so than any other game I played this year, Astro Bot had me smiling throughout its entire duration, and the immense joy I felt from playing these beautifully handcrafted levels cannot be understated. If you enjoy 3D platformers and you have a PS5, you've probably already played it, but if not, this needs to be your next game. The entire experience is dripping with charm and playful whimsicality that we rarely see outside of first-party Nintendo games. It's impossible to be sad playing Astro Bot. Just look at him. Look at his little face. I really struggled to choose between the top two games this year, and they're honestly both deserving of the top spot for various reasons, and they're both such different games and provide totally different experiences that made it even harder to choose. At number 2 we have Minishoot Adventures, one of the most polished and satisfying indie games I've had the pleasure of playing in a long time. Seriously, the polish on the movement and controls sit alongside the greats like Celeste and Hollow Knight. Minishoot Adventures is a blend of classic 2D Zelda exploration, bullet-hell twin-stick shooter combat, and some Metroidvania elements thrown in. It perfects all of these genres and understands what makes each of them so fun, with a gorgeous art style and colour palette, cute sound effects and music, and an addictive gameplay loop. I haven't had this much pure, uninterrupted fun with a game all year, and you need to check this one out even if you don't usually play bullet hell games. There's accessibility options if you don't want much of a challenge, but also some difficult endgame stuff if you want it to. And finally, we're on to my favourite game of the year. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is a genuine work of art. It transcends the video game medium and offers an experience that I've never had before in a puzzle game, and I doubt I will again for a very long time. It's incredibly special, with very challenging puzzles that will require making notes on paper, and a stylised gothic atmosphere that evokes a certain dread that comes with classic survival horror, but it doesn't have any combat or really any jump scares. The gameplay is purely exploring and puzzle solving. I made a whole video on why I love this game earlier in the year, so please check it out if you're interested. It's certainly not for everyone, but it's such a work of art, and I was obsessing over this game for months and still think about it regularly, but I have to place it as my favourite game that came out this year. Whew, that was a long one. I can't play everything, so these are just my personal favourites out of the games I did actually play, so your favourites will of course differ. Please let me know your favourite games of the year in the comments and whether any of them overlap with mine. Thank you so much for watching, I appreciate every single one of you watching until the end. If you did enjoy this, please do give it a like and most importantly subscribe. I've been super busy this year so haven't made many videos, but I do love to talk about the games I've been playing when I get a chance, and hopefully this list helped you to find a new game you didn't know about. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you all soon.